I'm James Prosser. I'm the Commercial Director of Mortgage Strategy. Today we're fortunate enough to be joined by Zahid, the CEO of Mortgage Brain. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. Good to be here.
Good, thank you. Thanks for coming. We're going to discuss AI, I guess generally, but also most recently the AI Charter in which Mortgage Brain have launched. A set of questions what we're going to go through, and firstly we're going to start with it's very well known that you have a personal passion for technology. So being the CEO of a fintech must be the ideal role for you. Can you tell us a bit about where this passion for tech comes from and give us some examples of what you've created yourself?
Well, I don't know what you've heard, James, but ever since when I was growing up, I used to write my own computer games, which I then used to share with my friends. This is, of course, pre-internet in the era of the dinosaur, and that would save us some money in terms of you had to pay for games at that time. So writing games as computer software and sharing it with friends. I've always had a passion for technology and creating new things and innovation. Perhaps one of the things that people tease me about is my home automation that I have running at home. So I have cameras that are capable of detecting animals, foxes, and I've created software that detects foxes running on my lawn and fires the sort of water sprinklers that you use to sprinkle your flower beds at the foxes in order to stop them mucking up my lawn and my flower beds. And I keep a score. So it doesn't do the foxes any damage, but saves my lawn and my flower beds.
Amazing. We've literally got a trio, got triplets of foxes in my garden at the moment. So I could see where that could come in because, I mean, every night it's incredible just to watch them. But the stuff that is going on behind the scenes is crazy. We know brokers are busier than ever at the moment. They're juggling more cases. And even today, there's been more criteria changes and more compliance than ever before. When you talk to brokers, where are they telling you that AI could generally take the pressure off? And what are their concerns?
So I think that in terms of helping them with their productivity, so whether it's administrative tasks, helping them to do repetitive things in an easier way, helping them interact with their customers, writing emails, summarizing things, that sort of thing. These are all things that we hear about. They're also concerned. There is a corpus of people who are concerned that, does this mean that I'm going to have a job tomorrow? And there's a lot of discussion about this. I think that if you look over the last 20 or 30 years, or even 50 years, all of our roles have changed. They've all evolved with technology and new technology coming in. And I just see that this wave of technology will evolve the roles that people play. They will become better orchestrators and perhaps less doers. That would mean that they get more productive, that they can do more, they could add more value for their clients. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they lose their jobs.
Do you think the fear comes down, so this isn't on the questions, but do you think the fear comes down to the amount of options that are out there and people not being aware of what could suit them, best personally?
I think the fear is from various channels. I think there's a lot of fear in the media around, here's this technology that's coming along to come and eat you alive, to take your job.
Yeah.
I think that in some instances it is well-founded. When there are repeatable administrative tasks, then you can do more with fewer people. But at the same time, I think that we as humanity have faced changes in technology. We're not doing the same things as our caveman ancestors are doing. We're doing different things. It actually means we've got more time to do things that we enjoy.
Yeah.
And therefore, this is something that's going to impact humanity in a bigger way. But it means that we will have time that we spend working, and that time will be more productive, but it will also mean that we've got more time to do things that we want to do.
Absolutely. I think it was Albert Einstein that said that life is very much like riding a bike. To keep your balance, you've got to keep moving.
Yes.
And going forward is obviously what we're doing right now.
Yes, exactly that.
You've just published the Mortgage Brain AI Charter, which is built around the 4 pillars of cost, IP, consistency, and speed. Before we go into detail, if a broker listening today only takes one thing away from your AI charter, what do you want that to be?
It's to look beyond the presentation, look beyond the flashing lights, look beyond the demo that's being presented to them to understand what's beneath it or what's behind it. That's absolutely critical, especially when it involves sensitive client data.
In the AI Charter, you say a lot of AI solutions are out there, little more than a thin layer placed over someone else's AI engine. How does a broker tell the difference between something that generally is built for mortgages and something that's essentially ChatGPT in a new jacket? And what questions should they be asking?
So let me be clear. There's nothing wrong. In fact, ChatGPT is amazing, as is Claude, as is all of the other frontier models and the tools that they power. There is absolutely, they're brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But when it comes to long-term solutions where brokers want to key in their sensitive client data, when they want to have a view to their cost in the future, the cost of serving them, this is where it matters. And it's those sorts of tools that they need to really understand the technology that's being served to them by speaking to their technology provider and asking the right questions. By being able to ask the right questions, that then uncovers the engines that then power these technologies. We've got a really helpful section on our website that will help them find the right questions to ask.
You mentioned quite a few there. Is there any one in particular that you use more than the
The
others?
third party, I use all of them.
As a sort of plethora rather than...
Yes, I mean, each
particular?
have their strengths and weaknesses, but more importantly, we've created our own. So, and this is really what sets us apart. So we're not only exposed to the sort of third-party frontier models, which can answer humanity's most difficult question and write PhDs, but we've created our own model or models with specific industry-specific learning that is very much more tailored to the sorts of things that our clients, we believe, may require or may need when they are dealing with mortgage-specific situations.
AI is everywhere these days, with promises that it can make the mortgage journey much smoother and much quicker. This has to be a huge benefit to brokers and their clients. So why are you warning brokers off using ready-made tools like ChatGPT or Copilot to help manage their workload, especially when these tools feel like such a time saver?
Yeah, I'm not warning them to not use these tools. In fact, I'd encourage them to use these tools, but to use them wisely. And to use them in a way in which you're not keying in sensitive client data into them. But the other warning that I'd give people is that the tools that they see and are visible for them to use today, which are free or next to free, are not going to be that tomorrow. We already see changes with the pricing models of OpenAI and Anthropic with Claude and ChatGPT. The for free use tools may get contaminated with sponsorship, may get contaminated with smaller context windows, which means they're more likely to hallucinate. The paid-for tools will become much more expensive just in order for these companies to break even. And therefore, over-reliance on these tools today, when that then takes over everything that you do, is perhaps not a good future-proofing in terms of where you go to the future. And also, most importantly, client data. You don't know whether that client data is going to be used to train their models in the future. So if you're uploading bank statements or keying in sensitive client information, this data is potentially available for these companies in order to train their models in the future. The last thing you want is your sensitive client's data being trained into the next version of ChatGPT that knows everything about your client, and that's because of you. You're breaking all sorts of regulatory barriers and confidentiality by doing so.
Now let's talk about cost, which is your first pillar. A broker listening or watching might say, hang on, I use ChatGPT for free, and even the paid version, which I use, is only 20 quid a month.
Yeah.
Where's the catch? How could brokers end up getting stung by AI costs down the line?
The cost per token today is really cheap because these companies have had huge amounts of investment that have gone into them, and these have subsidized the use of your and my use of these systems today. These investments in these companies are not going to be able to run at the massive losses that they're running at today. They're going to have to break even, or else they'll just run out of money, right?
Sure.
Some analysts reckon that the cost to serve is going to go up by between 10 times and 30 times what it is today. So your your £20 a month model will be £200 a month, and your £200 a month model will be £2,000 a month, and that's just the conservative 10 times, maybe £600, maybe £6,000 a month. If you bear it in that context, that's what I mean by cost. It's not the cost today; it's the cost tomorrow.
Frightening.
Indeed, yeah.
If your second pillar is intellectual property, can you tell me a bit more around that?
Yeah, sure. Actually, there are two elements to intellectual property. The first is around sensitive data, because this may be used to train models that are out of the control of yourself and also your tech provider. If they're reliant on a third-party AI model, it's not for your tech provider, it's the third party who's going to exploit that and train their models. And therefore, we think it's an important pillar to make sure that you understand where that data is going and what it's going to be used for. There's a second element of intellectual property. These third-party frontier models, foundation models, have very little context to the specific industry that you operate in. So, for example, all of the criteria changes that we're seeing today and the sourcing data around mortgage sourcing, all of this data is basically scraped off the internet at a particular point in time, and that is updated every 3 months. These data points change really regularly, and there are only companies like ours and a few number of others that have got the proprietary data to continuously make sure that the models that they serve are augmented with the right data that's up to date, that's complete, that's accurate, and that's not going to mislead someone using that model. So IP is a really important pillar.
You also flag in the charter that client data fed into public AI tools can end up being used to train someone else's AI model. Can you explain how that actually happens and why brokers should be worried about it, but not just from a compliance angle, but from a competitive one as well?
Well, I mean, your tech provider, if it's using a third-party model in order to power it, has no control as to what that third party does with that data. And therefore, they may use that data to train their next iteration of the model. That has all sorts of ramifications in terms of your confidentiality with your client, their sensitive information being used to train a model. So suddenly, tomorrow, that model knows everything about your client that they've confidentially shared with you. There are ramifications in terms of the sort of legal situation of you then having dispensed with their confidential information to a third party without your knowledge. That's where the issue really is.
It sounds like a compliance minefield.
It is a compliance minefield, and people don't know the right questions to ask.
This feels like it could become a consumer duty regulatory compliance issue very quickly. So are you seeing networks and compliance teams catching up with this yet? And what should a firm or a network do tomorrow if they suspect their team has been passing their clients' data into public AI tools?
So I think the larger corporate professional bodies and the networks are aware of the risk, and many of them have got policies in place to really make sure that this doesn't happen. I think the issue is with smaller organizations who don't really understand, and it's not their fault that they don't understand. Nobody's really explained it to them. And for those organizations, again, I'd say come and visit our website. We've got lots of information that helps them understand the right questions for them to ask to their tech provider. Make sure that you choose the right tech provider for you.
Now, your third pillar is consistency. You point out that if you ask the public chatbot the same question twice, you get two different answers. So how does a property-built, mortgage-specific AI behave differently?
The consistency is really, really important because from a customer outcome standpoint, if you've got the same customer and you're trying to deal with them in the same way, you can't have a different outcome for the same customer. I don't know whether you've ever keyed in the same prompt into ChatGPT on two different chat sessions, clean context, and looked at the output. They're likely to be subtly different, sometimes very different. But if you do this 100 times, you'll find that 1 out of 100 times or 1 out of n times is completely different. You cannot risk that with your customer. If you have a customer and there is an outcome for that customer, you need to make sure it's consistent. And therefore, finding ways of grounding AI so that it responds consistently to what you're trying to do with it is really, really critical. And that's what our third pillar is about. Because we've got our own AI, we're not reliant on a third party. There are all sorts of techniques that we can use that make sure that the responses or the output that we get from the AI that's embedded into our client solutions is consistent. And that's very different to somebody who's using a third-party model and just having a bit of stuff in front of it.
Your fourth pillar is speed. But interestingly, you almost push back against the obsession with speed, saying not every mortgage task needs to be big, flashy AI model behind it. Can you elaborate a bit more on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the larger the model and the faster the model, the more expensive the model. And we've talked about today the cost to serve. The cost per token is next to nothing because of the huge investment that's going into these models today. But that's not always going to be the case. And therefore, sometimes, in fact, quite often, to have a smaller model is probably better because it's going to be cheaper and potentially far more efficient in trying to return what you're trying to ask it. So in my mind, it's the case of having the smallest possible model in order that meets your business need. We've spent a lot of time in terms of selecting models that serve specific needs for our customers. The other thing around speed is it's not always one of real time is the best. Clearly, if you get something instantly, that sounds as if that's great, isn't it? But that comes with a cost. If you can have something that runs asynchronously, returns you an answer in a minute or half an hour or a day, I'm kind of drawing a spectrum over here. But if it costs you next to nothing, if it takes you half an hour compared to 10 seconds, then that makes a huge difference in terms of what you choose. So I think that the choice of what you choose depends on what you're trying to achieve with it, which should drive that choice. But be aware that there is a choice to be had.
And in that case, potentially less is more?
And therefore less is more, yeah. If you're trying to achieve things that don't require a real-time response just now or yesterday, then choose something that's going to be cost-effective and that's likely to give you a more consistent answer than something that is, there with you before.
I think that's a problem in society as a whole, though, isn't it? Everyone wants more, now. And,
yes.
and not necessarily, is that the right thing? It's generally not, in my experience.
No. And I think when the cost of serving you now is not visible to you, then it's easy to say, well, if it's going to cost me the same whether I get it now or whether I get it in half an hour's time, then I'm going to take the now all the time.
Yeah.
But when there is a cost difference and that's then visible to you, then you can make a better informed choice.
Yeah. It's like so many things in society, isn't it? Get people hooked.
Yes.
Get them in, reel them in, feel that they can't live without that.
Yeah.
Then then you're in.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the precipice from where we are today.
Yeah. Brokers consistently tell us that they want a trusted tech partner behind them. What can a broker using AI tools do compared to with a broker relying on a generic chatbot or a public LLM?
So I've already talked about the risks of using a public chatbot or an LLM. Let me just say I wouldn't ward people away from using all of these technologies. It's great to be curious and play around with things. But having something that's grounded, that's more secure, that has been built for the purpose, allows them to potentially use confidential customer information in order to help them achieve specific tasks that they may have. It may allow them to have conversations or bot-powered conversations with their customer in order to help with efficiencies around that. May help compliance teams in larger organizations with helping with their compliance needs. There are all sorts of use cases for this technology that would massively help productivity. Things like, for example, using these public tools in order to craft emails, or using tools to transcribe calls on Teams meetings or Zoom meetings, that sort of thing. That's where I'd say just be a bit careful, because if you've got sensitive customer information in those emails or being recorded in those conversations, just think about where that sensitive information is going to end up and whether it's going to end up training some model somewhere.
Now, I've witnessed Mortgage Brain over the last 25 years and where it started from and where it's gone. It's been an incredible journey. And it's been a very busy few years for you. and launching the brand new CRM Brain and making major developments to existing products. Without giving away too many secrets, what's the development team working on right now and that brokers should be excited about for the future?
We've got a roadmap of enhancements to our, I should say, our new tech stack, and we've got lots of releases coming downstream that extends and augments the functionality of what we've built. We've got some proof of concepts that we're testing with customers now that should bring some AI embedded functionality to these tools going forward, to these modules going forward. But we've also got some pure play AI software that we'll be launching hopefully imminently in the next couple of months, and for which I'm sure you'll hear more about once we make those releases.
Sounds like an exciting time.
It is a very exciting time.
Now, if you could give every broker in the country one practical tip, do this or don't do that on AI, something that they could act on this week, what would that be?
Be curious. I'd say with all of what we say with the four principles, our AI charter, go off and experiment. Try stuff. Experiment with different AI technologies out there. But make sure that if you are going to use it for business purposes, for your client with sensitive data, or if you're embedding it within your organization for long-term use, that you either consult with the questions that we'd arm you to ask your tech provider, or to think about the implications of that decision on your long-term use going forward.
And finally, for a company principal who's thinking about rolling AI out across their business, what are the key questions that you think they should be asking any tech provider before they sign on that dotted line?
So we've got a section on our website that helps equip them on ask these questions. But questions like, for example, can I sign a 3-year contract with you and will you guarantee me the price over the next 3 years? Or things like, for example, my client's data, my customer's data, where is that going to reside? Will it be used to train other third-party models? Who provides your AI for you? These are sorts of important questions that people should be asking their tech providers before they sign up to these technologies.
Zahid, thank you so much for joining us today. Your knowledge is obviously is huge. I can feel the passion coming through. It's great, I think, for our readers and for mortgage brokers across the country to get more information on this, because I'm very much a believer of you don't know what you don't know, and you obviously have the knowledge there. So thank you for sharing that with us today.
Thanks. Thank you very much.